I have flown through every kind of weather you can imagine. Thunderstorms that shake your plane like a toy. Blizzards that turn the sky into a wall of white nothing. Fog so thick you cannot see your own wingtips. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what I saw at 35,000 feet above the Arctic Circle on the night of February 14th. I still fly, but I take different routes now. I avoid the north. I avoid the clouds that look too perfect, too still. Because what I saw up there was not weather. It was not ice crystals or atmospheric phenomena. It was something else. Something that watched me back. My name is Reed, and I am 34 years old. I have been flying cargo planes for North Star Aviation out of Anchorage, Alaska for almost 9 years now. It is not glamorous work. No passengers to smile at. No first-class service. Just me, my co-pilot, and whatever freight we are hauling across the frozen north. Medical supplies, industrial equipment, mail for remote villages. Sometimes we fly routes so isolated that if something goes wrong, rescue could take days. You learn to trust your instruments. You learn to trust your training. And you learn that the Arctic does not forgive mistakes. Before I tell you what happened, I want you to know something. I am not the type to believe in ghosts or supernatural things. I believe in fuel gauges and altitude readings. I believe in weather reports and radio contact. But after that flight, after what I saw, I do not know what I believe anymore. Have you ever seen something that made you question everything? Something that should not exist but does? Drop a comment below and let me know, because I need to know I am not alone in this. It started like any other winter run. February in Alaska means the sun barely comes up, and when it does, it is weak and distant like a flashlight running out of batteries. I arrived at the Anchorage hangar at 6 p.m. for a night flight to Thule Air Base in Greenland. It was a standard cargo run. Medical equipment and repair parts for the base. Nothing unusual. The forecast showed clear skies over the Arctic Ocean with some light turbulence near the polar route. Wind speeds were normal. Temperature was -40 degrees Fahrenheit at cruising altitude. Standard stuff for February. My co-pilot was supposed to be a guy named Thompson, but he called in sick at the last minute. The company scrambled and found a replacement, a younger pilot named Alex, maybe 26 or 27 years old, fresh-faced and eager. He had only been flying cargo for 6 months, but his credentials checked out. He showed up with his flight bag and a thermos of coffee, grinning like this was the adventure of a lifetime. I remember thinking he would learn soon enough that Arctic flying is 90% boredom and 10% terror. "Ready for the milk run?" I asked him as we did our pre-flight checks. "Absolutely," he said. "I have never flown this far north before. Is it true you can see the northern lights from up there?" "Sometimes," I said. "If we are lucky." We loaded up, filed our flight plan, and taxied out to the runway. The plane was a Lockheed L-100 Hercules, a workhorse, reliable and tough. I had flown this exact aircraft dozens of times. I knew every rattle and hum. At 7:30 p.m., we took off into the darkness. Anchorage disappeared below us, a scatter of lights swallowed by the vast black wilderness of Alaska. We climbed to our cruising altitude of 35,000 feet and turned northeast toward the Arctic Circle. For the first 3 hours, everything was routine. Alex and I talked about flying, about his training, about the routes he had flown down in the lower 48 states. He was from Montana originally. He told me stories about learning to fly in his dad's Cessna over the Rocky Mountains. I told him about some of my more memorable flights. The time I had to land in a whiteout, the time an engine caught fire over the Bering Sea, the time I saw a pod of orcas from 10,000 feet, their black bodies cutting through the gray water like knives. At 10:45 p.m., we crossed into the Arctic Circle. The landscape below us vanished completely. No towns, no roads, no lights. Just an endless sheet of ice stretching in every direction. The moon was nearly full, and it cast a pale glow over the frozen ocean. I could see pressure ridges where the ice had buckled and cracked, creating jagged white lines that looked like scars on pale skin. "It is beautiful," Alex said, staring out the window. "It is deadly," I corrected him. "If we go down out here, we freeze to death before anyone finds us." He nodded, but he kept staring. I did not blame him. There is something hypnotic about the Arctic. It is so vast and empty that it stops feeling real. It feels like flying over an alien planet. At 11:20 p.m., we entered a cloud bank. This was expected. The weather report had mentioned scattered clouds at our altitude, but these clouds were different. They were too uniform, too smooth. Most clouds have texture. They billow and shift. They have dark spots and bright spots where the moonlight hits them differently. These clouds were flat, solid. They looked like a gray wall stretching across the entire sky. "That is weird," Alex said. "What is weird?" "Those clouds, they do not look right." I glanced at my instruments. Altitude steady, airspeed steady, no turbulence. The radar showed the clouds ahead, but nothing unusual. No storm cells, no ice warnings. "They are just clouds," I said. "We will be through them in a few minutes." But we were not through them in a few minutes. We flew into that gray wall, and it swallowed us completely. Visibility dropped to 0. The moonlight vanished. It was like flying inside a bottle of milk. I switched on the exterior lights, but they just reflected back at us, making it worse. I turned them off again. "Read," Alex said. His voice had changed. The eagerness was gone. "What?" "The instruments." I looked down at the panel. My stomach dropped. The altimeter was spinning. Not drifting. Spinning. The needle whipped around the dial like a clock gone mad. The airspeed indicator was doing the same thing. The compass was rotating slowly, continuously, never settling on a direction. The GPS showed our position, then flickered and showed us 200 miles away, then flickered again and showed us over the North Pole. "What the hell?" I muttered. I tapped the altimeter. Nothing changed. I checked the circuit breakers. All good. I switched to backup instruments. They showed the same impossible readings. "Are we climbing or descending?" Alex asked. His voice was tight. "I do not know." I could feel the plane. It felt steady. The engine sound was normal. There was no sensation of climbing or diving. But my instruments said we were doing both at the same time. I keyed the radio. "Tool approach. This is North Star Cargo 447. Do you copy?" "Static." "Tool approach. North Star 447. We are experiencing instrument failure. Request position and altitude confirmation." More static. Then, faintly, I heard something. Not a voice. A sound. A low hum that rose and fell like breathing. "Did you hear that?" Alex asked. "Yeah." We listened. The hum continued, but now there was something else underneath it. A whisper. Multiple whispers, overlapping, speaking words I could not understand. They sounded distant, like voices at the bottom of a well. "Turn it off," Alex said. I switched off the radio. The whispers stopped. The cockpit was silent except for the engine noise. We sat there, surrounded by impossible gray clouds, with instruments that told us we were everywhere and nowhere at once. "What do we do?" Alex asked. "We fly straight and level," I said. "Trust the feel of the plane. We keep our heading and speed and wait for this to pass. What if it does not pass?" "It will pass." But I was not sure. I have been flying for 15 years. I have been through instrument failures before. But this was different. This felt wrong. Not mechanical wrong. Something else. If you are enjoying this story so far, please take a moment to like and subscribe. It helps me keep bringing you these real experiences from my life. And trust me, this story gets much stranger from here. We flew blind for another 10 minutes. The clouds never changed. Still gray, still smooth, still wrong. I kept my hands steady on the controls, maintaining what I hoped was level flight. Alex kept checking the instruments, hoping they would start making sense again. They did not. Then, the temperature gauge started dropping. Not slowly, fast. I watched it fall from -40 to -60, then -80, then -100. That is not possible at our altitude. Even in the Arctic winter, it does not get that cold at 35,000 feet. "Read, it says -120 now." "I see it. Should we be feeling that? Should the plane be icing up?" He was right. At those temperatures, ice should be forming on the wings, on the windscreen, everywhere. but I felt no change in the plane's handling. No sluggishness, no vibration. It was like the temperature reading was from somewhere else, some other place. That is when I saw the light. It started as a faint glow ahead of us, barely visible through the clouds. At first, I thought we were finally breaking through. I thought I was seeing the moon again. But the light was wrong. It was not white. It was a pale blue-green, like the color of old ice. It pulsed slowly, growing brighter and dimmer in a steady rhythm. "Do you see that?" I asked. "Yeah," Alex whispered. The light grew brighter. The clouds around it began to move, swirling inward toward the light like water circling a drain. I could see shapes in the clouds now. Not random shapes, patterns, geometric, perfect circles and spirals that twisted deeper into the gray. "We need to turn around," Alex said. "And go where?" "We do not know which way is around. The compass is useless. Then we need to climb. Get above this. We do not know if we are already climbing." The light was directly ahead now, maybe a mile away. It was huge, bigger than the full moon. It pulsed like a heartbeat, and with each pulse, I felt something in my chest. A vibration, a pressure, like standing next to a speaker playing bass so low you cannot hear it, only feel it. The whispers started again, but not from the radio. They came from everywhere, from the air itself. I could not make out words, but I could feel meaning behind them. They felt old, ancient. They felt like they were calling to us. "Reed, we need to do something." Alex's hand was on the control yoke, white-knuckled. I made a decision. I pushed the yoke forward, putting us into a dive. If the instruments were lying and we were actually climbing, a dive would level us out. If we were level, we would descend out of this cloud bank. If we were already descending, well, at least we would get out of here faster. The altimeter continued its crazy spin, but I felt the plane's nose drop. We were diving. I counted to 10, then pulled back, leveling off. The light was closer now, close enough that I could see it was not a single source. It was multiple lights, thousands of them, clustered together in the clouds. They looked like stars, but stars do not pulse. Stars do not move, and they were moving, slowly rotating around a central point. A spiral of lights in the clouds, and we were flying straight toward the center. "Bank left," Alex shouted. I pulled the yoke hard, throwing the plane into a steep left turn. The cargo shifted behind us with a heavy thud. Alarms started blaring, stall warning, bank angle warning. But I kept turning, trying to put distance between us and that spiral of lights. The whispers grew louder, angry. They rose in pitch and volume until they were almost screams. The temperature gauge showed -150. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. At that temperature, the fuel should be freezing in the lines. The hydraulics should be solid. But the plane kept flying. I completed the turn and straightened out, flying what I hoped was away from the lights. For a moment, I thought we had made it. The lights began to fade behind us. The whispers quieted. The clouds ahead looked normal, textured, real. Then the plane shuddered. Not turbulence, not an engine problem. The entire aircraft shook like a dog shaking off water. Once, twice, 3 times. Hard enough that my head hit the ceiling despite my seatbelt. The instrument panel went dark for a second, then flickered back on. When it did, all the gauges showed normal readings. Altitude 35,000 feet. Airspeed 280 knots. Heading 045 degrees. Temperature -40. What the hell was that? Alex's voice was shaking. I do not know. The clouds vanished. 1 second we were inside them. The next we were in clear air. It was not gradual. It was instant, like passing through a curtain. The moon was above us, bright and normal. Below us, the Arctic ice stretched out like always. The stars were steady in the black sky. I checked every instrument twice. Everything was functioning normally. I keyed the radio. Thule approach. North Star 447. North Star 447. Thule approach. Go ahead. The controller's voice was clear and normal. Thule approach. We experienced some weather. Can you confirm our position and altitude? North Star 447. I show you at 35,000 feet, 200 miles southwest of Thule, on course and on time. Are you declaring an emergency? I looked at Alex. He looked back at me. We had lost at least 20 minutes in those clouds, but according to Thule, we were exactly where we should be, exactly when we should be. Negative, Thule. No emergency. Instruments are reading normal now. Copy that. 447. Continue approach as planned. I put the radio down. My hands were shaking. Alex was staring out the window like he was afraid the clouds would come back. Did that just happen? He asked. Yeah. What was it? I do not know. We flew the rest of the way to Thule in silence. I kept checking over my shoulder, looking for those gray clouds, looking for that blue-green light. But there was nothing. Just normal Arctic sky. We landed at Thule Air Base at 2:15 a.m. The ground crew met us, and we unloaded the cargo like it was any other flight. Nobody noticed anything unusual. Nobody asked us why we looked shaken. After we filed our post-flight report, Alex and I sat in the crew lounge with coffee. Neither of us had mentioned what happened in the official report. I wrote up some vague language about brief instrument malfunction due to possible static discharge. Alex did not argue. What were we supposed to say? That we flew into clouds that should not exist? That we saw lights that moved like living things? That the temperature dropped to levels that should have killed us? Read, Alex said finally. What do you think that was? I do not know. Do you think it was? Could it have been? What? Something not from here. I wanted to tell him no. I wanted to tell him it was just a weird atmospheric phenomenon. Ball, lightning, or ice crystals or something, with a perfectly rational explanation. But I could not, because I did not believe that. I had seen the patterns in those clouds. I had felt that rhythm in my chest. I had heard those whispers. Maybe, I said. We slept a few hours at the base, then flew back to Anchorage empty. The return flight was normal. Clear skies, functioning instruments, no mysterious lights. We landed at 3:30 p.m., and I went home to my apartment in downtown Anchorage. I tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw that spiral of lights. I heard those whispers. I took 2 days off, which is unusual for me. I usually fly as much as possible. The money is good, and I do not have much else to do. But after that flight, I needed time to think. I went to the library and started researching. I looked up Arctic phenomena, atmospheric disturbances. I read about aurora borealis and sundogs and polar stratospheric clouds. None of it matched what we saw. Then I started looking into something else. Reports from other pilots. I found a forum online where aviators share unusual experiences. There were dozens of stories, hundreds, maybe. Pilots who had seen strange lights over the ocean. Pilots who had experienced instrument failures that corrected themselves instantly. Pilots who had heard voices on radio frequencies that should have been empty. One report stood out. It was from a Russian cargo pilot who flew routes over Siberia. He described flying through clouds that looked like solid walls of gray glass. He said his altimeter had spun like a broken clock. He said he saw lights in the clouds that moved in spirals. His report was from 1987, almost 40 years ago. I found another from a Canadian pilot in 2003, another from a Norwegian pilot in 2011. All of them described the same thing: gray clouds, spinning instruments, spiral lights, whispers, and all of them had flown over the Arctic Circle. There was a pattern. The sightings clustered around certain coordinates, areas of the Arctic Ocean far from any land. I pulled up a map and marked each report. They formed a rough circle around a point at 87 degrees north, 140 degrees west. That is only about 200 miles from the North Pole, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the Arctic ice. I was not scheduled to fly for another 3 days, but I kept researching. I found older reports, some going back to the 1,950 seconds, when pilots first started flying regular routes over the Arctic. There was a U.S. Air Force report from 1,952, partially redacted, about a B-36 bomber that encountered unusual meteorological conditions over the Arctic. The plane had returned safely, but the crew refused to discuss what they had seen. 2 of them requested transfers to other squadrons. There was a British report from 1967 about a cargo plane that vanished over the Arctic Ocean. No wreckage was ever found, no distress call. The last transmission from the pilot mentioned extraordinary cloud formations. The deeper I dug, the more I found. Not just pilots, ships too. Whalers and explorers from the 1800s who wrote in their journals about strange lights in the northern sky. Lights that were not aurora, lights that moved with purpose. Inuit legends about spirits in the ice, spirits that called to travelers, that led them into the white waste where they were never seen again. I found myself falling down a rabbit hole. Ancient Norse texts that mentioned Jotunheim, a realm of ice and mist where giants dwelled. Japanese fishermen who refused to go beyond a certain latitude because of the breathing waters. Russian mystics who believed the Arctic was a thin place where our world touched something else. Before you think I lost my mind, remember this: I am a pilot. I deal in facts. I trust what I can see and measure. But what I saw in those clouds was real. Alex saw it too. Our instruments recorded it, even if only for a few minutes. Something is up there. Something that should not exist. On my 4th day off, I got a call from my supervisor at North Star Aviation, a guy named Holland. He wanted to meet me for coffee. That was unusual. Holland is the type who does everything by email. When he wants a face-to-face meeting, it is serious. We met at a diner near the hangar. Holland was already there, sitting in a back booth with a cup of coffee he had not touched. He was a big man, 50 seconds, with gray hair, and a face that looked like it had been carved from old leather. He had been flying in Alaska since before I was born. "Reed," he said as I sat down. "How are you feeling?" "Fine." "Why?" "Your co-pilot Alex?" He put in a transfer request. "Wants to fly southern routes only. Says he is done with Arctic runs." I said nothing. He also filed an incident report, a detailed one. Described some things he saw on your flight to Thule. Things he said you saw too. Did he? Yes. And before you ask, I am not here to call you crazy. I am here because 25 years ago, I saw the same thing. That got my attention. Holland was not the type to make jokes or tell stories. He was practical, serious. If he said he saw something, he saw something. "Tell me," I said. He wrapped his hands around his coffee cup. "I was flying a route over the Beaufort Sea, January of 1999. Clear night, full moon. I was about 100 miles north of Barrow when I hit a cloud bank. Except it was not a normal cloud bank. It was like flying into fog, but fog that felt aware. My instruments went haywire. I saw lights, blue-green lights in a spiral pattern. I heard voices on the radio, speaking in a language I did not recognize. The temperature gauge showed -160. I thought I was dying. I thought the plane was breaking apart. Then, just like that, I was through it. Everything went back to normal. Did you report it? I tried. I told my supervisor what happened. He told me to forget it. Said it was probably Street Elmo's fire or some kind of atmospheric electrical discharge, but I knew it was not. I knew I had seen something else. Did you ever figure out what it was? Holland shook his head. No, but I will tell you what I think. I think there are places in the world where the normal rules do not apply. Places where our reality gets thin. The Arctic is one of those places. It is too empty, too cold, too far from everything. Maybe that emptiness lets other things through. Maybe the cold preserves things that should not exist. I do not know. But I know what I saw, and I know you saw it too. Have there been others? Other pilots who saw it? A few. Over the years, they do not talk about it much. People think you are crazy if you mention lights in the clouds or voices on the radio, so they stay quiet. But yeah, there have been others. I told him about my research, about the reports I had found online, about the pattern of sightings clustering around those coordinates near the North Pole. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said, "Do not go looking for it, Reed. That is my advice. Fly your routes, do your job. But do not go looking for it, because I think if you look too hard, it will find you. And I do not think that is a good thing. Why? Because the people who go looking for it do not always come back. He stood up, dropped a $10 bill on the table for the coffee, and left. I sat there for a long time, staring at my own cup, thinking about what he had said. Do not go looking for it. But I could not let it go. Over the next 2 weeks, I flew my regular routes and tried to focus on the work. But every time I flew over the Arctic, I found myself scanning the clouds, looking for that gray flatness, listening for whispers on the radio. I did not see anything unusual, just normal sky, normal clouds, normal cold. Then I started having dreams. In the dreams, I was flying. Always alone. No co-pilot, no cargo, just me, in a small plane, heading north, into the darkness. Below me, the ice stretched forever. Above me, the sky was full of stars, but they were wrong. They moved. They formed patterns, spirals, circles within circles. And in the center of the spirals was that blue-green light, pulsing like a heartbeat. In the dreams, I always flew toward the light. I could not help myself. It pulled me like gravity. And as I got closer, I could see that the light was not in the sky. It was under the ice. Deep under the ice. A glow coming from far below, shining up through 1,000 feet of frozen ocean. And there were things around the light, shapes. I could not see them clearly, but I could sense them. They were vast, ancient. They had been there forever, sleeping under the ice, and they were starting to wake up. I always woke from these dreams with my heart pounding and my sheets soaked with sweat. I started sleeping with the lights on. I started avoiding the window in my bedroom because I could see north from there, and I was afraid I would see that light on the horizon. I know how this sounds. I know I sound like I'm losing my mind. Maybe I was, but the dreams kept coming, and they were always the same. Always that flight north. Always that light under the ice. Always those shapes. 3 weeks after the incident, I was assigned another Arctic run, this time to a research station on Ellesmere Island in northern Canada. Standard cargo delivery, medical supplies and equipment. My co-pilot was an older guy named Peterson. We had flown together before. He was steady, reliable, not the type to get spooked. We took off from Anchorage at 8 p.m. and headed northeast. The flight was smooth, clear skies, no clouds, normal instruments. We passed over the Brooks Range, then out over the Arctic Ocean. The moon was waxing gibbous, giving us good visibility. At 11:30 p.m., we crossed 80 degrees north. Peterson was telling me about his daughter's wedding when I noticed something on the horizon. A darkness, not night darkness, a thicker darkness. A shadow in the sky where there should not be one. Do you see that? I asked, pointing. Peterson looked. See what? That dark area, ahead of us, about 30 degrees left. He squinted. I do not see anything unusual, just the regular night sky, but I could see it. A patch of darkness, circular, maybe 10 miles across. It sat on the northern horizon like a hole in the world. As we flew closer, I realized it was not just dark, it was an absence. The stars behind it were gone, not hidden by clouds. Gone. Reed, are you okay? Peterson asked. Do you really not see that? I see the Arctic, same as always. The absence grew larger as we approached. Now it took up a third of the sky ahead of us. My hands started shaking on the controls. I knew what this was. I knew we were about to fly into it again. I need to change course, I said. What? Why? We are on schedule. Weather is clear. Just trust me. We need to go around. I banked the plane to the right, altering our heading by 20 degrees. The absence moved with us. No matter which direction I turned, it stayed directly ahead. Always in our path. Always waiting. Reed, what are you doing? You are taking us off course. I know. We need to stay on the flight plan. We are going to run into airspace restrictions if you keep turning. Peterson, I need you to trust me. There is something wrong ahead. I do not see anything wrong. The instruments are fine. The sky is clear. I looked at him. He was staring at me with concern, not at the sky, at me, because he could not see what I saw. The absence was visible only to me. That scared me more than anything else, because it meant this was not random. It meant I had been chosen. It meant the thing in the clouds had marked me somehow during that first encounter, and now it was calling me back. Before I share what happened next, I want to ask you to subscribe if you have not already. These stories are not easy to tell, but I think they need to be shared. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next part. Because what I am about to describe changed everything I thought I knew about the world. I kept turning, trying to avoid the absence, but it followed us like a magnet follows iron. Peterson was getting more agitated. He kept insisting I return to our original heading. He threatened to report me when we landed. I did not care. I was focused on that growing darkness ahead. Then the radio crackled to life. North Star 447. This is Anchorage Center. Be advised you are deviating from your flight plan. Please confirm your status. Peterson grabbed the mic. Anchorage Center. This is 447. We are experiencing a disagreement in the cockpit. Request instructions. 447. Please clarify. Before Peterson could respond, I took the mic from him. Anchorage Center, 447. Disregard. We are experiencing some unusual visual phenomena. Returning to original heading, I turned the plane back to our assigned route, toward the absence, because I realized something. Running was not going to work. The thing wanted me to see it. It was going to show itself to me whether I wanted it to or not. And if I kept fighting it, I might put Peterson in danger too. As we straightened out, the absence grew until it filled half the sky. Then, like before, we flew into it. One moment, we were in clear air under stars. The next, we were inside that gray flatness, those clouds that looked like walls. But this time was different. The instruments did not malfunction. They worked perfectly. They showed us exactly where we were and what our altitude was. The radio stayed clear. No whispers, no static. Everything was normal except for what I could see outside the windows. The clouds were not empty. There were structures in them, buildings, or things that looked like buildings. Vast geometric shapes made of cloud and ice and light. They stretched up from below and down from above, forming a canyon that we flew through. The structures were wrong. They had too many angles, too many surfaces that should not connect but did. Looking at them made my head hurt. "Reed," Peterson said. His voice was quiet. "Awad, do you see that? You see it now?" "Yeah." What is this?" "I do not know." We flew deeper into the canyon of impossible architecture. The structures began to move, reconfiguring themselves as we passed. Walls became floors. Floors became ceilings. Ceilings opened into vast chambers that should not have fit in the space available. And everywhere, that blue-green light pulsed. Then I saw them, the shapes from my dreams. They moved through the structures, or maybe they were part of the structures. They were too large to comprehend. I could only see parts of them. A curve here that might have been a limb, an opening there that might have been an eye or a mouth. They flowed like water and stood solid like stone at the same time. They were aware of us. I could feel their attention like weight on my shoulders. They watched us fly through their domain, and I had the terrible sense that they found us amusing, like we were insects crawling across a table while giants sat and played cards above us. "We need to get out of here," Peterson whispered. "How?" "I do not know. Just fly. Fly fast." I pushed the throttles forward. The engines roared. Our airspeed increased to 320 knots, faster than I should have been flying that plane. But speed did not matter. The structures kept pace with us. The shapes flowed alongside us. We were not moving through their space. They were holding us in place, showing us what they wanted us to see. One of the shapes moved closer. It was impossible to judge its size because I had nothing to compare it to. It might have been the size of a house or the size of a mountain. It was made of cloud and ice, but it had solidity, substance. It had form, even if that form was wrong. And it had eyes. Not eyes like ours, not biological, but points of awareness, points of focus that turned toward our plane and looked at us, looked into us. I felt it examining me, reading me, learning everything about me in an instant. Where I was born, who I loved, what I feared, every memory, every thought, every secret. It took all of it and held it up to the light like a jeweler examining a diamond. Then it spoke, not in words, not in sound. It communicated directly into my mind, a sensation of vast age, of patience beyond comprehension, of hunger, not hunger for food or flesh, hunger for experience, for consciousness, for the warmth of living minds in this endless frozen waste. It showed me things, visions that flooded my brain faster than I could process them. I saw the Arctic as it had been millions of years ago, warm, green, full of life. I saw something fall from the sky, something vast and burning. It crashed into the ocean and sank deep, deep down into the trench below the ice, and it waited there, frozen, sleeping, dreaming. I saw ice ages come and go. I saw the ocean freeze solid above it. I saw the ice crack and reform. I saw ancient peoples cross the frozen sea, following herds of mammoth and muskox. Some of them got lost in storms. Some of them wandered too far north, and when they did, they found the places where the ice was thin, where the dreams of the thing below leaked through. They saw the lights, they heard the whispers, and some of them never came home. I saw explorers in wooden ships, trapped in the ice, their crews going mad. I saw pilots in early planes, flying over the pole, their radios crackling with voices in dead languages. I saw submarines beneath the ice, their sonar picking up sounds that should not exist. Massive shapes moving in the deep water. The scrape of something enormous dragging itself across the seafloor. The thing showed me its frustration. It had been trying to communicate for so long, but humans were so brief, so fragile. Their minds burned bright and went out like matches. By the time it formed a connection, they were gone, dead of old age, while it had barely noticed the passage of time. But now, it showed me, things were changing. The ice was melting, the ocean was warming, and it was waking up. Not quickly. Nothing it did was quick, but inevitably, patiently. It was waking, and when it was fully awake, it would reach out. It would touch the minds of millions. It would share its dreams with the whole world. The vision ended abruptly. I was back in the cockpit, my hands locked on the controls, my face wet with tears. I did not remember crying. Peterson was slumped in his seat beside me, unconscious or asleep. The structures around us were fading, dissolving back into ordinary clouds. The blue-green light dimmed, and then we were through. Clear sky, normal stars, the moon bright above us. Our instruments showed us exactly where we should be, exactly on time, as if nothing had happened. I checked Peterson. He was breathing normally. His pulse was steady, but he would not wake up. I tried shaking him. I tried shouting his name. Nothing worked. He was deeply unconscious, like someone in a coma. I keyed the radio with shaking hands. Ellesmere Station. This is North Star 447. I am declaring an emergency. My co-pilot is unconscious. I need medical standing by. 447. Ellesmere Station copies. What is the nature of the emergency? Did he have a heart attack? I do not know. He just passed out. He is breathing, but I cannot wake him. Copy. 447. We will have medical ready. You are cleared for immediate approach. Current winds are 270 at 15 knots. I flew the approach on autopilot because my hands would not stop shaking. I kept looking at Peterson, hoping he would wake up. I kept glancing at the sky, afraid those clouds would come back, but everything stayed normal. The landing was smooth. The medical team took Peterson away on a stretcher as soon as I shut down the engines. I sat in the cockpit for a long time after they left. Just sat there, staring at nothing, trying to process what I had seen, what I had felt, that thing under the ice, that vast, ancient intelligence that had been waiting for millions of years, and it was waking up. The station commander came to find me an hour later. He was a Canadian military officer named Duchamp. Mid-40s, weathered face, kind eyes. Your co-pilot is stable, he said. The doctors cannot find anything wrong with him medically. His vitals are normal. Brain activity is normal. He is just asleep. They think it might be some kind of exhaustion-induced shutdown. Has he been working long hours? No more than usual. What happened up there? I looked at him. I wanted to tell him everything. about the clouds, about the structures, about the thing that looked into my mind and showed me the end of the world. But I knew how it would sound. I knew what would happen. They would ground me. They would send me to a psychiatrist. They would take away my license. I do not know, I said. He was fine, and then he just passed out. Duchamp did not look convinced, but he did not push. Get some rest. We will keep monitoring Peterson. You can fly out tomorrow once we are sure he is stable enough to travel. I spent the night in a small room at the research station. I did not sleep. I could not. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that thing looking at me. Those eyes that were not eyes, that presence that had peeled me open and read everything inside. And I kept thinking about what it had shown me. The ice melting, the thing waking, reaching out to touch millions of minds. What would that do to people? What would it do to the world if everyone suddenly felt what I had felt? If everyone suddenly knew there was something vast and ancient under the Arctic ice? Something that did not care about us except as points of warmth in the cold? As brief candles burning in the eternal dark? Peterson woke up the next morning. He opened his eyes at 6 a.m. like he was waking from a normal sleep. The doctors examined him again. Still, nothing wrong. When I went to see him, he was sitting up in bed, drinking coffee, looking confused. What happened? He asked me. You do not remember? He shook his head. I remember flying. We were heading to Ellesmere. Then, nothing. I woke up here. You passed out, in the cockpit. I did? Yeah. You were unconscious for almost 10 hours. He frowned. I do not remember any of that. The last thing I remember is you pointing at something in the sky. You asked if I saw it. Then, blank. What did you see? Before you blacked out? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I do not want to talk about it. Peterson. No, Reed. I do not want to talk about it. I do not want to think about it. I just want to go home and forget this flight ever happened. I understood. I felt the same way, but I knew I would never forget. That thing had marked me. It had chosen me to see it, and I did not know why. We flew back to Anchorage that afternoon. Peterson was cleared by the doctors, though they recommended he take a week off. He agreed immediately. I filed my report, keeping it simple. Co-pilot experienced sudden loss of consciousness. Cause unknown. Possible fatigue. I did not mention the clouds, or the structures, or the thing that lived under the ice, but Holland knew. When I came in to file my report, he took one look at my face and knew. He pulled me aside into his office and closed the door. It happened again, he said. Not a question. A statement. Yeah. Was it worse this time? Much worse. I told him everything. The absence in the sky, the structures in the clouds, the shape that looked into my mind, the visions it had shown me. Holland listened without interrupting. When I finished, he sat back in his chair and closed his eyes. I hoped you would not see it again, he said. I hoped it was just a one-time thing, but I knew better. What is it, Holland? What is that thing? I do not know what it is, but I know what it does. It watches. It waits. It reaches out to people who fly over the Arctic. Not everyone. Just some people. The ones it finds interesting. Maybe. The ones whose minds it can touch. Why me? I do not know. Why me? 25 years ago? Why the Russian pilot in the 80 seconds? Why any of us? Maybe we just happened to be in the right place at the right time, or the wrong place at the wrong time. It showed me things, I said. It showed me that it is waking up, that the ice is melting and it is waking up. And when it is fully awake, it is going to reach out to everyone, not just pilots, everyone. Holland opened his eyes. He looked old suddenly, tired. Then, God, help us all. You believe me? I told you. I saw it too. I know what it can do, and if it is waking up. He trailed off, shaking his head. Reed, I am going to give you some advice. The same advice I gave you before, but more serious this time. Stop flying Arctic routes. Request southern runs only. Get as far away from the north as you can, because I think that thing is looking for you now. And I think the more you fly up there, the stronger the connection becomes. What if I do not? What if I keep flying north? Then I think one day you will fly into those clouds and you will not come back out. I thought about that. I thought about the thing under the ice, slowly waking. I thought about how it had looked into me and taken everything, all my memories, all my thoughts. What if next time it did not just look? What if next time it took me with it? What if I became part of it, absorbed into that vast ancient consciousness, floating forever in the frozen dark? I will request southern routes, I said. Holland nodded. Good. And Reed, if you ever see those clouds again, even from the ground, even from your apartment window, you call me, day or night. You understand? I understand. I left his office and went home. I submitted my route preference changes that night. Southern runs only. California, Texas, Mexico, anywhere but the Arctic. The company approved it without question. I think Holland must have put in a word for me. For 2 months, everything was fine. I flew cargo runs down to Los Angeles, to Phoenix, to Houston. Warm places. Places where the sky was blue and the clouds were normal. I started sleeping better. The dreams stopped. I stopped looking north from my apartment window. I thought maybe I had escaped. I thought maybe the thing under the ice had forgotten about me. I was wrong. It started with small things. I would be flying over Nevada or Arizona, and I would see a cloud formation that looked wrong. Too flat, too smooth. It would disappear when I looked directly at it, but I knew it had been there. I would hear whispers on empty radio frequencies. Just for a second. Just long enough to make me question if I had really heard them. Then the dreams came back. But they were different now. In these dreams, I was not flying. I was walking on the ice, walking north, walking toward that blue-green glow on the horizon, and I could hear it calling me. Not in words, in feelings, in longing. It wanted me to come back. It wanted me to see more. It wanted to show me what it really was. I started seeing it in other places too. Reflections in windows, shadows that moved wrong, the pattern of frost on my windshield in the morning, always that same spiral shape, always those same geometric angles that hurt to look at. I knew what was happening. The connection I had felt in those clouds was not breaking. It was growing stronger. Distance did not matter. Avoiding the Arctic did not matter. The thing had touched my mind, and now it could reach me anywhere. 3 months after my last Arctic flight, I woke up at 3 a.m. with the certainty that I needed to go north. Not wanted to, needed to. It was like thirst or hunger, a physical need that consumed me. I got out of bed and started packing a bag. I was putting on my coat when I realized what I was doing. I called Holland. He answered on the second ring, voice groggy. Reed, what is wrong? It is calling me back. I can feel it. I was about to get in my car and drive north. I do not even know where I was going. I just knew I needed to go north. Listen to me carefully. You need to leave Anchorage. Tonight. Go south. Go as far south as you can. Do not fly, drive, or take a train. Get to California or Mexico. Put as much distance as possible between you and the Arctic. Will that work? I do not know, but it is the only thing I can think of. I packed more carefully this time. Clothes, money, my passport. I got in my car and started driving south. I drove through the night, following the highway down through Canada. I did not stop except for gas. I kept the radio on, loud, to drown out the whispers I could hear at the edge of my hearing. I drove for 3 days. I crossed into Washington State, then Oregon, then California. I kept going until I reached San Diego, as far south as I could get without leaving the country. I checked into a motel near the beach and slept for 16 hours straight. When I woke up, the compulsion was gone. I did not feel the need to go north anymore. The whispers had stopped. I could not see the spiral patterns in the clouds, or the frost, or the shadows. I felt like myself again. I stayed in San Diego for 2 weeks. I found a cheap apartment. I applied for jobs with local cargo companies. I went to the beach and watched the ocean. Warm water, warm sand, blue sky, everything the Arctic was not, but I could not settle. I felt wrong here. Disconnected, like I was in the wrong place. Like part of me was still up there in the frozen north, waiting, calling to the rest of me to come back. I started researching again. I looked for any information about things living under the Arctic ice. I found scientific papers about the possibility of ancient microorganisms trapped in the ice. I found speculation about what might live in the deep ocean trenches below the polar ice cap, but nothing matched what I had seen. Nothing came close. Then I found something interesting. A declassified CIA document from 1958. It was about a Soviet submarine that had gone missing in the Arctic Ocean. The submarine had been on a routine patrol when it reported unusual sonar contacts, large objects moving beneath the ice. Objects that did not match any known submarine or whale species. The last transmission from the submarine mentioned extremely large life forms at depth, exhibiting apparent intelligence. Then nothing. The submarine was never found. There were other documents. A U.S. Navy report about sonar operators in the Arctic, hearing what they described as singing coming from below the ice. Complex, structured sounds that repeated in patterns. The Navy officially classified them as unknown whale vocalizations, but the sonar operators insisted the sounds were too complex, too structured, too intelligent to be whales. I found reports of research stations in the Arctic experiencing mass hallucinations, entire crews seeing lights in the sky, hearing voices, some of them wandering off into the ice and freezing to death. The official explanations were always the same: cabin fever, isolation-induced psychosis, vitamin deficiency affecting brain function. But I knew better. I knew what they had really seen, what they had really heard. The thing under the ice, reaching out, touching minds, looking for something, or someone. I realized I was not the first person it had chosen. There had been others before me. Pilots, sailors, explorers, people who had gotten too close to whatever it was, people who had seen into its dreams. And I wondered what had happened to them. Had they gone back? Had they walked out onto the ice, following that blue-green light, never to be seen again? One night, I had the most vivid dream yet. I was standing on the ice at the North Pole. The sky above me was full of stars, so many stars that they formed a solid sheet of light. And below the ice, beneath my feet, I could feel it. The thing, massive beyond comprehension. Its awareness was like heat, radiating up through 1,000 feet of frozen water. It spoke to me. This time, I could almost understand. It said I was meant to see. I was meant to know. I was meant to prepare, because it was almost time. The ice was thin. The water was warm. Soon it would rise. Soon it would emerge into the air and light after millions of years in the dark. And when it did, the world would change forever. I woke up screaming. My sheets were soaked with sweat. My heart was hammering so hard I thought I was having a heart attack. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that I could not stay away. The thing wanted me to come back. And part of me wanted to go. Wanted to see it fully. Wanted to understand what it really was. I called Holland. It was 4 a.m. in Alaska, but he answered immediately, like he had been waiting for my call. "It is not letting go," I said. "I can feel it even here. It wants me to come back." "Then do not come back. Stay where you are. Fight it." "I do not think I can fight it forever, Holland. It is in my head, in my dreams. It knows where I am." "Reed, listen to me. You cannot go back. If you go back, I do not think you will survive. That thing does not care about you. It cares about what you can do for it. It wants to use you. Use me how? I do not know. But nothing good ever comes from the Arctic. You know that." But I was not sure I agreed. Yes, I was terrified of the thing under the ice. Yes, it had invaded my mind and showed me horrors. But it had also shown me wonders. It had shown me the deep history of the world. It had shown me that we are not alone, that there are intelligences vast and old that we cannot comprehend. And part of me wanted to understand. Part of me wanted to go back and see more. I did not tell Holland that. I just said, "Okay, I will stay here." But we both knew I was lying. I lasted another month in San Diego. I got a job flying cargo runs between San Diego and Las Vegas. Short flights, desert routes, as far from the Arctic as I could get while still being a pilot. But it did not help. Every night, the dreams came. Every night, I walked on the ice toward that light. And every night, I felt the thing's presence growing stronger in my mind. I started losing time. I would be at work, and suddenly, I would realize hours had passed, and I could not remember what I had been doing. I would be driving, and find myself parked somewhere with no memory of how I got there. Once, I woke up in my car in a parking lot near the airport, the engine running, my GPS showing a route planned to Anchorage. I knew I was losing control. The thing was not just calling me, it was taking me. Slowly, piece by piece. So I made a decision. If I was going to go back, I would do it on my own terms. I would go prepared. I would go with my eyes open. And I would document everything, so that if I did not come back, at least someone would know what happened. I called Holland one last time. "I am coming back," I said. "Reed, no, I have to. It is not giving me a choice, but I'm not going to just walk out onto the ice and disappear. I am going to fly up there. I am going to see what it wants, and I'm going to try to come back. This is a mistake. Maybe, but it is my mistake to make." There was a long silence. Then Holland said, "If you are going to do this, do it smart. Do not go alone. Bring someone who can pull you back if you go too far. Bring equipment, cameras, recorders, document everything, and Reed, set a deadline. Tell yourself you will be back by a certain date. Give yourself a hard limit, because that thing will try to keep you. Okay, and Reed, call me when you get back. If you get back, I will." I flew back to Anchorage the next day. I did not tell North Star Aviation why I was coming back. I just said I was ready to resume Arctic flights. They were happy to have me. Good Arctic pilots are hard to find. Most people do not want to fly over an ocean of ice in the dark for hours at a time. I spent a week preparing. I bought the best cold weather survival gear I could find. I bought a satellite phone with emergency beacon. I bought cameras and recording equipment. I made copies of all my research and my journals and mailed them to a friend in Seattle with instructions to open them if I did not contact him within 2 weeks. I chartered a small plane, a single-engine Cessna with long-range fuel tanks. I filed a flight plan that would take me over the Arctic Ocean to the coordinates I had identified, the place where all the sightings clustered, 87 degrees north, 140 degrees west. As close to the North Pole as I could get. Holland met me at the hangar the night before I was scheduled to leave. He looked old and tired, worried. "You do not have to do this," he said. "Yes, I do. What do you think you are going to find out there? I do not know. But I need to see it. I need to understand what it is. Why it chose me." Holland shook his head. "I think it chose you because you are willing to go looking, because you cannot let it go. Most people would run as far away as possible, but not you. You are flying straight toward it. Is that a bad thing? I guess we will find out." He handed me something. A small metal box. "This is a military-grade emergency locator beacon. If you get in trouble, if you need extraction, you press this button. A rescue team will be dispatched to your location within hours. Thank you." "Do not thank me. Just come back." I took off the next morning at 6 a.m. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the eastern sky in shades of pink and orange. I flew north, over the mountains, over the north slope, out over the Arctic Ocean. The ice stretched below me, endless and white. I flew for 6 hours. The sun arced low across the southern sky, never rising very high, then began to set again. By 2 p.m., I was flying in twilight. By 4 p.m., it was full dark. The moon had not risen yet. The only light came from the stars and the faint glow of aurora on the northern horizon. At 5:30 p.m., I reached the coordinates. 87 degrees north, 140 degrees west. I was almost at the North Pole. Below me, the ice was broken and jumbled, pushed into ridges by the movement of the ocean beneath. The temperature at altitude was minus 60 degrees. If I went down, I would have maybe an hour before I froze to death. I circled the area, looking for anything unusual. Just ice. Just darkness. Just the aurora flickering green and purple in the distance. For a moment, I wondered if I had made a terrible mistake. If I had flown all this way for nothing, then I saw it. A glow beneath the ice, faint, blue-green, pulsing slowly. My heart started racing. This was it. This was the source. The thing I had seen in the clouds was down there, under the ice, under the ocean, right where my dreams had shown me. I descended to 10,000 feet, then 5,000. I wanted to see it more clearly. The glow grew brighter as I got lower. I could see it was not a single point of light. It was spread out over a huge area, maybe 10 miles across. It pulsed in complex patterns, like neurons firing in a vast brain. I turned on my cameras. I started recording. I wanted proof. I wanted documentation. Because I knew, if I came back with just a story, no one would believe me. That is when the clouds appeared. They came from nowhere. One moment, the sky was clear. The next, I was surrounded by that gray flatness, those walls of cloud that should not exist. My instruments stayed functional this time, but I could feel the presence of the thing. It knew I was here. It had been waiting for me. The structures formed around me. Those impossible buildings of cloud and light and ice, they were even larger than before, even more complex. They stretched up into the sky and down toward the ice, creating a three-dimensional maze that hurt my eyes to look at. And then it was there. The shape, the thing from my visions. It rose up from the glow beneath the ice, passing through 1,000 feet of frozen ocean like it was not even there. It was vast, incomprehensibly huge. I could not see all of it at once. I could only see parts, curves, angles, surfaces that reflected light in ways that did not make sense. It looked at me. And this time, I did not look away. I felt it enter my mind again. But this time, I was ready. I did not fight it. I let it in. I let it show me what it wanted me to see. And what I saw was beyond anything I could have imagined. The thing was not alive, not in any way I understood life. It was something else. Something between matter and energy, between thought and substance. It had been drifting through space for billions of years before it fell to Earth. It had crashed into the ocean in the time of the dinosaurs and sunk to the bottom, and it had been there ever since. Frozen, sleeping, dreaming, but it was not alone. There were others like it, scattered across the solar system, under the ice of Europa, in the methane seas of Titan, in the deep canyons of Mars. Ancient things, patient things, things that existed on timescales we could not comprehend, and they were all waking up, because something was calling to them, something vast and distant, a signal from deep space, a summons. And when they fully woke, when they answered that call, the Earth would change, the solar system would change, everything would change. The thing showed me what would happen. It did not want to hurt humanity. It did not even really care about humanity. We were just another species, another brief spark in the endless dark. But when it rose from the ice, when it emerged into the air and light, people would see it, they would feel it, and their minds would change. Some would go mad. Some would worship it as a god. Some would try to destroy it. And some, like me, would simply try to understand. It showed me a choice. I could go back. I could return to my normal life. But I would always carry this knowledge. I would always know what was under the ice, what was coming, and that knowledge would slowly destroy me. I would spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder, waiting for the world to end. Or I could stay. I could join with it, merge my consciousness with its vast, ancient mind. I would lose myself, but I would gain something greater. I would become part of something eternal, something that had seen the birth and death of stars, something that would exist long after the sun went cold and dark. For a moment, I was tempted. I was so tempted. The idea of ending my fear, my loneliness, my confusion, the idea of being part of something greater. It was seductive. But then I thought about Holland, about Peterson, about Alex, about all the people who would worry about me if I did not come back, about my friend in Seattle waiting for my call, about the life I still had, even if it was small and brief and insignificant in the face of this vast cosmic horror. I spoke to the thing, not with words, with thoughts, with feelings. I told it no. I told it I wanted to go back. I wanted to live my life. I wanted to be human. Even if that meant being afraid and confused and lost. Because that was what being human meant. Being small in a big universe. Being brief in the face of eternity. And that was okay. The thing considered my answer. I felt its curiosity, its amusement. It had not expected me to refuse. Most of the minds it had touched either went mad or surrendered. But I had done neither. I had looked into the abyss and chosen to look away. And surprisingly, it let me go. The structures dissolved. The clouds faded. The glow beneath the ice dimmed. I was alone in my plane, flying over the Arctic Ocean under a sky full of stars. I turned south and flew home. It took me 8 hours. I landed in Anchorage at 3 a.m. Holland was waiting for me at the hangar. When I climbed out of the plane, he just looked at me for a long moment. "You came back," he said. "Yeah." "Did you see it?" "Yeah." And I think we do not have much time. It is waking up, Holland, and when it does, everything changes." He nodded slowly. "Then, I guess we better enjoy what we have while we have it." That was 2 months ago. I am still flying, still taking routes over the Arctic, but I do not look for the thing anymore. I know it is there. I know it is waking, but I have made my choice. I chose to be human, to live my brief, small life, to appreciate the time I have. The dreams have stopped. The whispers have stopped. The thing is not calling me anymore. Maybe it found someone else to watch. Maybe it has other plans. I do not know. But I am grateful for the peace. I still look north sometimes, from my apartment window, from the cockpit of my plane, and sometimes, on very clear nights, I think I can see a faint glow on the horizon, a blue-green pulse, barely visible, and I know it is still there, still waiting, still preparing for whatever is coming. But that is not my problem anymore. I did what I had to do. I saw what I needed to see, and I came back. I survived. And now, I am going to live my life, however long I have left. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. I know it sounds crazy. I know some of you will not believe me, but it is true. Every word. And if you ever find yourself flying over the Arctic, or sailing those frozen waters, or walking on that endless ice, remember this: there are things in the deep places of the world, things that are old and strange and vast, things that we were never meant to see or understand. But we are human. We explore, we question, we push boundaries, and sometimes we see things we wish we had not. Sometimes we learn truths we wish we could unlearn. But that is the price of curiosity. That is the price of being alive. So live your life, love your people, appreciate every moment, because the universe is vast and cold and full of horrors beyond imagining, but it is also beautiful and brief and precious, and that is enough. If this story resonated with you, please share it with others. Let them know what is out there. Let them know that we are not alone. And maybe, just maybe, when the thing under the ice finally wakes, we will be ready. Or at least, we will face it together. Stay safe out there. And if you ever see clouds that look too smooth, too flat, too wrong, turn around, fly the other way. Because some things are better left undiscovered. Some things should stay buried in the ice, but they will not stay buried forever. The ice is melting, and it is waking up.